Manufacturers put good weatherproofing on, and which will last for a few years, 5 plus 6 years. It's probably a good idea to have a visual look. If it is starting to flake, chip, starting to rust, then maybe that's the time to look at getting some new weatherproofing done. All vehicles can be weatherproofed. Obviously, all vehicles are open to the elements, but particularly Land Rovers, Discoveries, things like that, do suffer with a bit of rot and do suffer with rust.
Whilst weatherproofing your vehicle is definitely a great idea, there are some serious pitfalls that you'll need to look out for.
There are companies out there who say that they can have the vehicle back to you within 5 hours. That's just literally steam cleaned off and weatherproofed. It takes us 3 days to weatherproof a vehicle. So that I'd be very cautious about that and sort of ask them in detail what they're actually going to do to your vehicle to weatherproof it before you actually say, yes, okay, go ahead and do it. So if a vehicle's been weatherproofed before, you can get all different grades of weatherproofing. You can get some cheap, nasty weatherproofing, which will actually cause more damage than prevent it. You'll get a stone chip in that weatherproofing, and then water will get behind and they'll sit in there. So if we see any parts where we think there's water stuck behind weatherproofing, we'll scratch those off, check them with a chipping hammer, check that it hasn't actually rotted through the chassis. So for instance, on a cheaper underseal, you may get a stone chip, and then the water will sort of sit in that chip and then work its way behind, and then the underseal will bubble out but hold the water, and that will go for your chassis in no time at all, absolutely no time at all, and before you know it, you've just got a chassis full of holes. I've seen some terrible horror stories. When we've chipped off, we've found big holes sort of like that in chassis which have just been filled with filler and then undersealed. And obviously then we've come to it with our descaler and blown all the filler out, and suddenly there's big holes in the chassis. I've seen a lot of water being held in undersealing and rotting through chassis. Where the engine had got a lot of oil leaks and the gearbox had got a lot of oil leaks, they just undersealed over the gearbox and over the engine, covered the engine in underseal, so you wouldn't be able to see the leaks. These are the kind of things you've got to look out for.
That's the horror stories out of the way. So let's get on with the task of actually weatherproofing our vehicle.
First get the vehicle in, we lift it in the air, steam, clean it off, pressure washer it off so it's all nice and clean. Leave that to dry.
We recommend allowing about 24 hours drying time. Any moisture that's still on the vehicle will be trapped underneath the underseal and can lead to rotting.
Bring it in on the ramps, and we'd go over with a high pressured air gun, which will blow any sort of chunks of mud that we've missed with the jet wash, or any loose bits of dust, any loose bits of mud, any loose bits of rust. It will blow all that off. Once you've cleaned it off with the high powered air gun, we'll then go over it with wire brushes.
It's really important to get in there with the wire brushes, whether manual or powered. This will really give you a good idea of what sort of condition the chassis is in. Take particular care on the bits where water can sit, on top of the diff casings, on top of the chassis. And if there's too much rust for your wire brushes,
we'll also use a needle descaler where needed. If you've got some particularly bad points of rust, we'll use a needle descaler to take all those back bits off. And you basically just got to get it as clean as possible, as rust-free as possible.
Once everything's cleaned down, we want to inspect the vehicle with a chipping hammer. We're looking for patches of rust or rot that we can test with the hammer. If rot has set in, we really do need to replace it.
If you've actually got a point of corrosion and rotted, then there's nothing you can do to stop rot. You've got to cut it out. So if you've got a hole that's rotted through the chassis, it's no good just undersealing over it, because that will just grow and grow and grow.
In future shows, we're going to take a look at how to deal with rot, and in specific, a welding masterclass.
And then we look at the application of the weatherproofing then, once all that's done and we're satisfied it's all nicely cleaned off, there's no signs of any rot, and then we'll weatherproof it.
Earlier on, Neil gave the advice to really avoid the cheaper underseals. After many years in the trade, Neil recommends these two products. The Land Rover owner's favourite, Wax Oil by Hammerite. And in a spray-only form, Tetra Shots by Tetrasil.
You won't be sealing obviously the exhaust, you won't be sealing over the gearbox, you won't be undersealing anything to do with the engine. I like to put a good application on, good thick application. We usually say you could do a vehicle in six cans. I like to probably put 8 on. I'll just go that bit further, just to make sure that it's got a nice layer on and it's not going to fall off or scratch off very easily. And obviously it will last that bit longer. So it's always good to put that bit more on. Definitely to put more than not enough. I like to leave it 24 hours. If you take it out wet, you've got a lot of chance of knocking a bit off, and obviously you don't really want that. So I like to give it 24 hours for it to go as hard as it's going to go, and then you've got more chance of it staying on and not knocking any off, especially when you're off-roading and things like that.
And that concludes weatherproofing. It's not rocket science, but there are some pitfalls. And some closing wise words from Neil.
I mean, the main thing is with weatherproofing is prevention is better than cure. Make sure you get your weatherproofing nice and early. It's no good coming in the middle of sort of December, halfway through the winter, then decide to do your weatherproofing, because damage could already be done by then. Get your weatherproofing done well before the bad weather, because it will just save you a lot of problems and a lot of hassle. It's definitely get it done early winter, opposed to in the middle of the winter.